Hi, and welcome to the I Ramble podcast. We're an entrepreneur-centric podcast, guiding you with some tried and true strategies from people that have taken their ideas from mental creation to reality. Now they're trying to make it easier for you to succeed in your endeavors. So sit back and listen to these entrepreneurs, builders, and designers share the step-by-step formulation of their business. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for new episodes. Enjoy!
What the business is, that's not rhetorical. That's a real question. What the business is. And today the business is modeling. I reached out to this lady so we can get some good information on how to enter the world of modeling, if that's what you're into. Or if you just wanted to gain some information just like I did. I wanted to know a lot of the behind the scenes, how it go. So I reached out to her and asked her, could she give me some guidance and give you some guidance on how that goes. So I ain't going to do her no disservice. I'm going to let her introduce herself. How you doing today?
Hey.
What's your name? What you mean? Hey. What's your name? What's up?
Well, it's your girl, Phylisia Slim.
Okay. Where you from? Phylisia Slim.
I'm originally from New York, the Bronx, New York.
Okay.
Been living here in Atlanta for, going 16 years now. 16 years, yeah.
Okay. And you was into modeling when you were in New York, or how did you get into modeling? And
I started training in New York at Bob's on Modeling School. So I started my training when I was young.
Okay.
And that's where I got all my training experience and everything up back home in New York.
Okay.
So when I came here, I already knew the minor stuff and the main things. I already knew what I was supposed to do. All I had to do was build my portfolio.
Build your portfolio. Okay. So you said you already knew what you're supposed to do and all of those different things. So did you get the training? Like when I say I wanted to get some information, it's like, I watch and I see the walks and the things models do and how they do. So did you get a schooling on how to do that?
Yeah, that's Bob's on Modeling School was pretty expensive.
Okay.
I tell a lot of people at times it is wise to invest in yourself. So my mom paid for my modeling school. So that was the nicest thing she ever done as far as my modeling career. She was the one that started it for me. So she did pay for my school. I did learn everything. So that's why I said it is good to invest into anything that you are passionate about and learning it the right way.
Okay. So you went to the school. How long was that?
It was actually a couple of months. I left to come to Georgia the last month. I didn't get to graduate. That's the only sad part.
Okay.
I didn't get to graduate. If I would have graduated, the president loved me. She would have signed me, but I left New York to come to Georgia. So I had to start all over again.
How so?
Because Georgia is not New York. Modeling is not the same here.
What's the difference? That's what we're here for.
Gosh. It's not. No. Let's just say Georgia is not
known for runway modeling or not.
No, it's not for fashion. It's not.
Okay, but people swagged out. So what do you mean when it's not for? Okay, because another one of the questions I was going to ask you later on, so you kind of got into it a little earlier, was you moved to Georgia from New York, but was it a conscious modeling thing, or was it a family thing why you ended up moving here? And then the next thing was modeling in LA and New York is different. I get that part for people who don't really know. Mm-hmm. So when you say Atlanta is not like that, is because Atlanta's not known for modeling like that in the fashion world?
Right. Well, I moved here because of family reasons, but the reason why, New York, I could just speak of New York. I haven't been modeling in LA as of yet. But I know New York and Atlanta, the difference is that New York is just fashion. It's home of the fashion state. So it's where opportunities do start. It's where trends do start. It's up north in New York. They're the one that start the new trending of what's happening, what's going to be new. While Georgia now, they're not spontaneous like that. They're not going to start a new trend. They're more waiting to see what is new, and then they follow the trend. So because of that, the fashion industry, it's not going to be in the South because they're more of a follower state, I call it.
Okay.
Where they're waiting on the trend from up north. Yeah.
Okay. I definitely don't think they'll think that, because for me being down here, I already know everywhere you are, there's a wave. And I'm not, I can't speak on the modeling level of it.
I guarantee you, when it came here, it's been past New York already. By the time Georgia had it, it's been past New York. It's old news for them.
Well, that's what we got you here, so you can give us the guidance in terms of modeling. I just know every place in every state have their own swag, their own style, and
yeah, of course,
people go off of kind of what that is. They ride
music for Atlanta, not fashion.
Yeah, well, that's why you're here to enlighten us on it. You know what I mean? So for someone to try to get into modeling, they'll know, okay, if I'm here in Atlanta, or if you're in the Midwest and you're trying to get into music, or if you're in wherever you are and you're trying to get into whatever, you kind of want to go to where the mecca of that is, or wherever that is thriving and popping, and go do that. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what I mean when I say that. Every place got its own style, swag, and feel. And hey, that's just me anyway. I just always felt the South did have a dope swag. But elaborate. So you went to your schooling there, you came here, you didn't graduate, and in the meantime, you had to do some form. How did you get into it down here then?
So what I did was, there was a website called Model Mayhem. I believe it's still up. It's good for upcoming models out there, young ladies, young guys. If you do want to get in the industry, it's good to do trade-ins, meaning that trade-ins is more like for photographers that just starting doing their work and they want to build their portfolio as well. So do you. It's good to collaborate with them, and they get the pictures and you get your pictures, and you build it from then. So that's what I did. I joined the website Model Mayhem, and I networked with a lot of photographers. And through that's when I build my portfolio up.
That's dope that you say that, because we kind of talked about that a little bit earlier, where some of the photographers that you know from back then when y'all were just networking, now we're doing big things. So you got to kind of re-network. So kind of speak to the importance of still networking with those people. Was there any kind of disconnect between you and those photographers where you feel like?
Yeah. Of course, everybody goes different ways, and we disconnect and all that, but we don't forget each other. That's one thing about us, is that, oh yeah, I know Slim, or I know this one because we worked together before.
Okay.
But now, it's hard to get freebies from my people now, because now they're experts. Just like I'm an expert. I'm not doing no free runway shows no more and all that stuff, which in the beginning I had to do my networking.
Right.
So now everything has changed, but what I do know, it's good to maintain networking, because it's always somebody new come in. So when there's somebody new, there goes somebody else you could collaborate with, because they're new. Okay. But then it just depends how you want to continue your brand with the new person, how they're going to, how your brand got to look, comparing to somebody that don't know what they're doing yet.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but with something like that, now, don't you kind of now take the wheel as a coach, as a teacher to someone, a new photographer, where you're saying, okay, from my experience with angles, maybe you should do this, that? Do you have that confidence that when you're dealing with someone new who's willing to take freebies for you?
Right. You see, but my thing is, one thing I do know a lot of photographers love to work with me about is that I've never been a model where you have to direct what to do when it comes to my poses. I always been the one to pose, and I always been the one that was more visual into what the theme is going to be, or what is the concept of the photo shoot. So because of that, I always been directing as far as, okay, this is the theme, this is what I'm going to do, this is the pose, and they just go from there. So it's always been easy for me to work with photographers, because all they got to do is know how to edit it and know how to click the button and take it. Other than that, you're good.
Okay. So to backtrack a little bit, so that's something you always knew you wanted to do, getting into modeling, because obviously you get into modeling is because, okay, how you look or how your body structure is and things like that. But other than that, was that something that you just knew you wanted to do?
Yeah, it's something I always was doing since I was a little girl. I always take pictures. Love to
Okay.
take pictures.
Okay.
So I was more of a picture person in fashion. I always loved fashion. So runway was something I had to get used to because of my height. So that was where a lot of people seen that I would be more valuable in was high fashion, which was runway. So even though I could care less about runway, I'd rather print all day because it's more fun. But runway is more
structured.
It's structured big time, yeah.
So you have to do this, that, and the third where you have more leeway or with print. But so could break down the two, the difference.
Print goes with the flow more, and you could be modeling for different brands. It doesn't have to be clothes. It could be shoes. It could be pocketbooks, whatever. So they don't care about your size so much. They're not really strict. They like you. They like how you take pictures. That's all. It's more commercial than anything. You make them money. They make you money.
Okay.
While runway is more where it's the designer. The designer pick their models. They like you. They have a whole bunch of clothes that they want you to wear. You got to go back and forth, in and out. It's work, constantly work, where you have to change this outfit, go into another outfit, and you get a set pay for the runway, and that's about it. It's not a lot of money in runway. That's what a lot of people don't know. So that's why a lot of models...
With bigger names, or you got to do a lot of work to accumulate it?
It's still print that wins, because print gets the royalties. They get more when it comes to print commercials. You still get more.
Okay.
Because think about it, if you in a billboard, you just did a print for Abercrombie and Fitch. You know what I'm saying? Every time your face, your picture is there goes your royalty, there goes your money, compared to just runway, which is a couple nights for Fashion Week, and that's it. Or whatever night they need you, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still, like I said, it's still more money in the commercial scene than runway. And then, of course, they're stricter too. You got to maintain your look, maintain your weight. It's real structure more with runway. This is how they seen you. You had to stay that way. There's no changing.
So is that really... Okay, because I know we talked earlier about having either an agent, I'm not sure what you call it in the fashion world. Right. So now your agent try to make sure you stay within that scope of what you're seen and known for, as opposed to print where you can kind of fluctuate in weight a bit more. Is that kind of okay? All right.
Yeah, because you could have for instance, I got signed. My first agency was in New York. So your agent is going to see, they could offer you a non-exclusive contract or exclusive contract. So for instance, they would look at you and see, they would know which one you would give them more money out of. Is that a runway or print?
And that's what they're thinking about when they're signing you and deciding what you're going to adhere to.
Right. You could be there to do both, but they know they could give you a 2-year contract, let's just say. And for my runway, it was exclusive, and my print was non-exclusive. Just saying, just for example. One meaning for runways, for all of the Northeast, I couldn't be signed to no other agency in Northeast. Just them for runways, shows. Okay. But for print, I could do whatever I want with anybody, because that was our contract. But if I go to the Southeast, I come back to Georgia now, I could do whatever I want because I'm not signed in Georgia. I'm not signed, but still. Ain't nothing here, but I'm just saying.
All right, no worries.
You just gotta know when it comes to your contract, you just gotta know that, okay, this is your contract. And most of the time, even being signed, that doesn't mean you're going to get work. I learned a lot of stuff after getting signed to an agency.
Did you limit yourself by taking a deal? So you're looking back on that with the hindsight, like, okay, now I'm a seasoned vet. I know I should have did this, that, and the third. So did you limit yourself by taking an exclusive contract to do runway as opposed to print where you could have did, or what else could you have done?
I I can't say. See, I started my agency at a tough time when it was the pandemic hit. So I didn't really get to really take advantage of my full contract because I was signed in New York, but I lived in Georgia. So what I did was only come back home in New York for Fashion Week, which is twice a year in, February and September. That's it. That's all I did. But now if I lived up in New York, I would have got more work. I could be able to go to more casting calls to get booked.
Okay.
But if I'm not local, most of the time you cannot go to those casting calls because you're not local. So
it's the kind of a decision you have to make type of thing.
Right. So I just went there to Fashion Week for 2 years, and that was the best thing I could have done at that time.
So giving advice to someone to structure their career coming in new, obviously, okay, let's get into the parent guidance side of it, kind of, right? So you said your mom's paid for your schooling and things like that, right? So did you think that you could have did better had you stayed in New York and grew there?
Of course. I always said that I should have stayed my butt home. I should have stayed in Georgia, New York. I always say it, but I know I would have been somewhere way, way bigger than what I am right now if I was back home in New York. I know that. But because I'm the type to put family first, I've always been that type.
But then I think it kind of was age driven too, because were you old enough to kind of?
No, I was 15.
Yeah, so you couldn't but it's just looking back and knowing that the fruits would have been better in your career if you were based there to be able to take advantage of those things.
Right, because of what my passion was, basically.
Right.
My passion was in that state that I would have blossomed more, And that can't say, what if my passion was in music? I would have been better off here then. But, it's just, that was just not the case. And over here, modeling is something that it's just a hobby for me in Georgia, honestly.
So did you think that to transition back to New York, or my other thought was, okay, LA, where are the other places where modeling is kind of a hotbed?
Overseas, of course.
More so?
I was
or what?
overseas. Overseas was my next goal to do, because I was trying to go back home to New York and be with them a little longer, and then try to get signed to an agency overseas. It could be where's it called? London, or it could be Germany.
Countries, okay.
Yeah.
There's certain countries that are more popping and okay.
Yeah.
High level, top shelf.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always wondered that too when because I saw your pictures before, and like I was telling you, whenever you strike a pose like you believe that pose. So it harkened back to kind of what you said earlier, where the cameraman really didn't have a lot of work to do because you believed in what you were doing.
Right.
So your pose was kind of always on point.
Right. A lot of people don't know acting is modeling. And it's not easy. It's just that we don't speak. So think about it. It's like you gotta act by your body language and by your eyes and that's it. You can't let people know how you feel through words, which is much harder. So a lot of people think it's easy. It's not easy.
It's for them to think that, but if you do it,
Yeah, it's harder. I tell a lot of people it's harder to do print than runway. Only because you got to know what you're modeling. You got to model that product. You're just there to model whatever product it is. So you got to show, express what you're modeling, what you're selling.
Do you necessarily got to believe that you would wear this, or you're selling that you would wear it?
You have to believe it. If you don't believe it, they could tell. It's not going to be real. It's not going to be real. It's just like, I would never forget American Next Top Model. I was in top 8. I almost made a show. But I ended up working with one of the judges in New York Fashion Week when I got signed. Okay. And I ended up asking her a really good, valid question, which was, how come I didn't make it on the show? I just thought it was just a light skin, because light skin African-American girls have it hard in modeling. They love
Okay.
them chocolate African, they love them chocolate girls.
And I would think that would be the opposite, kind of. But then I remember, like I was asking you earlier, there was this one model I saw, and she had a nice dark skull tone, and I'm like, okay, wow, maybe it's because she's selling that outfit more because of the contrast, or is it the confidence of the walking? I'm not sure. So, for I kind of like
you cannot outshine the product. That's what it is.
Are you known? Are you told to do that, or you just know that, or what?
No, you know that. You just have to know that. So basically, like for instance, American Next Top Model, I found out I was too experienced. Sometimes you could be too experienced, where they don't want you mold. They want to mold somebody. Their purpose to mold somebody. Then somebody that's too experienced, and they're like, oh snap, she already know what she's
I
doing.
know kind of what you're saying.
And so that's how American Next Top Model was. And a lot of girls don't know where modeling is not the type to. There's it could be a lot of negativity as far as confident level, because you don't feel good enough. And there's a lot of girls there that there's not a lot of support for one another in modeling world. Let's just be real.
I don't know.
I'm being honest. Everybody's competition with competition.
It makes sense.
If they see, and it's sad that us African Americans, we don't get picked a lot. So for like one designer, they would pick like 5 to 7 Caucasian girls and pick 1 or 2 African American girls. So if you see one African American girl get picked, it's either she's the only one, or please let them pick one more and let it be me.
Did you ever speak to any of the designers to find out the theory behind that, or you just felt the way and
they try to be diverse? They always say, and I said, okay, if you're trying to be diverse, why is it so much Caucasian? To me, they look the same.
I don't know. I'm not there.
But that's how blunt I be, because it's true. If they all have blonde hair, what's the difference? To me, they all look alike. So why do we get more African American and more Asian and more, even if you do go Caucasian, do a redhead one, with freckles or something.
I can't control what their theory and thought is. I don't, like I say, I just try to gain the information. I can't really decide what someone thinking, how they formulate their business or what they do.
Okay, but that's how the modeling world is, people. Just preparing you guys from New York high fashion model. That's how the truth is when it comes to being a professional signed model. Now, there's a difference with a signed model and a freelance model. So there's the two difference.
Okay, and the freelance model is?
You're just a freelance model. You're just modeling. Really, most of the time, you're modeling for free. Yeah, you're just modeling for network, and that's something I did in the beginning of my modeling industry when I moved to Georgia, because again, I had to start from scratch. But a lot of models, they have to be a freelance model before they could start as a signed model.
Okay, so you kind of build as you grow and decide the lane that you decide to roll in and go with that.
Yeah, because you have to have your portfolio ready, and you have to have experience in your walk. Basically, you have to be ready before you get signed to an agent. They don't have time to school you or bring you to school or nothing like that. You got to put in the work yourself.
It's basically an adult world.
Right.
At that point, and the guidance from your parents, your support system, that kind of help you through whatever you're going through. Mm-hmm. Okay, so how does it go in terms of weight and staying in a good regimen? I know you were saying earlier you try to stay in the gym, try to keep a good structure going so that you can kind of not necessarily freelance, but adhere to whatever designer who chooses you to do that show or event.
Well, yeah, everybody have their own way of working out. I tell a lot of people, as long as you're active, you keep yourself active and keep yourself trim and looking healthy and well, you should be fine. I love to dance. I love to do my Pilates, but that's the way I work out. Other people could love to, love to hike. Other people love doing different stuff. As long as you keep your body in that shape, because one thing about them is that they don't want to, you can't look like a different person than what you were before. Like they sign you looking this way, They want you to maintain that look.
And that's within having a contract, or that's just within working with that particular designer? Or
that's just having a contract.
Okay.
Like if they're going to find you work, you got to look like that person. So
that's where you just got to keep your upkeep, your daily regimen.
Yeah, especially I tell a lot of women, a lot of women don't know when they have to change their look or when not to change their look. I knew I had to change my look when I had to go back home to New York because I couldn't look like everybody else. You got to look unique and you got to look like somebody that they can remember. So I just tell a lot of models, just remember, it's not good to look like everybody else. It's better to
look how you look naturally.
Well, yeah, I'm meaning like for hairstyles, for example. It's just like, because you see everybody wearing weave doesn't mean you got to wear the weave either. You got to stand out and be different.
I always thought that was a part of modeling anyway, was that you brought an individuality to it. So you wasn't chosen because you were blonde. You were chosen because you had that nice walk. Because we talked about that a little bit, where I asked you, was walking taught, or did you have a natural walk that you went with because it's how you walk anyway? Mm-hmm. Or I just always thought individuality was always a great selling point for being, in the modeling industry.
Yeah, you have to have your own individual thing, and you have to stand out, basically. You can't be a person that fit into the crowd.
And that would get you more gigs or more offers or what?
Right. You'll be remembered. You'll be remembered more because of your uniqueness or whatever it is. They will remember your face or remember that, that style you had, whatever it is.
Okay. So what your guidance now you're looking back on, if you started out differently, what would you was there anything you would kind of do different or anything you would change per se? Because obviously you couldn't change really your weight class that you're in, which is 1 to 3, I'm assuming. But other than that, would you switch your walk up, switch your hair up, or the schooling? What would you think? You would
I wouldn't really change anything. I think I couldn't go back home to New York, so, I think I did everything I can. I learned from the best. It got rewarded. I reward myself from it. Then I ended up being an instructor. I could teach, models upcoming. So I think the steps that I did was pretty good.
So is that something you're doing ongoing now, the teaching, the giving back to?
Right, yeah. So certain schools, or upcoming modeling schools, whatever, will book me to be their coach or instructor
for their model. What kind of things you getting into with that?
Like
teaching them
teaching the walk, teaching how to take pictures, everything as far as the modeling industry, letting you learn the terminology words, things like that, what to expect, how to avoid scammers, things like that. Because I've been through everything.
That's one of the things with any kind of business or industry. There's always the taking advantage of us. So that's a lot of why we do what we do with the podcast, is kind of give you some guidance so you don't fall victim or have a smooth path or smoother path.